Beyond the Headlines is sponsored by Flow.
Joining me now via the Flow video line, the Public Relations Officer of the National Youth Council, Dwight George. We are now on the road to the NYC's General Assembly. Nominations opened a few weeks ago and have since closed. So much to talk about. Dwight, thanks for waking up early. Thanks for being patient and coming on this morning.
Not a problem. Thank you so much for having me, Shannon. It's good to be here.
You're most welcome. It's always our pleasure to have guests like yourself who represent such a very important demographic and an important organization, the NYC, here on St. Lucia. Road to GA. I'm very much optimistic, Dwight, that road hasn't been filled or littered with many potholes.
I beg your pardon?
I'm very hopeful, and I'm hoping that the road to the General Assembly hasn't been filled with that many potholes.
For NYC, coming from COVID-19 and the 2021 acne incident, those definitely created potholes for NYC, but we push forward and we're hopeful that we're able to go into General Assembly on November 19th.
For people just listening and unaware, what is the General Assembly?
The General Assembly is the largest governing body for the National Youth Council. It is where the council gets to have the district branches interact with the national executive. That's where we get all clubs and youth 18 to 35 on island in one venue. This delegation gets to dictate the future of NYC. So constitutional reform, any amendments that need to happen, any documents that need to be made a document of NYC, and of course the main reason, which would be the election of a new national executive. This year we're electing the 17th executive.
The 17th executive of the council. We'll talk about the positions which are up and the important role that the membership will play, a new executive in charting the way forward. But nominations opened in September and have since closed. Dwight, what was the feedback like from prospective nominees?
For the opening, when we just opened, it was quite just a bit slow. Of course, young persons are still a bit timid in going up for NYC. Again, we're coming from the 2021 incident, and there's still a lot of work, though the interim has pushed through. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done. We are getting persons that would like to contest, however, just a bit. They just need a little more push. We have extended internally for the district branches to do nominations so that we can get a full election process going. That will be closed. It is closed currently, but it will be closed to district branches for nominations and completion of documents that needs to be submitted Monday following.
Yeah. Talk to us about your interim committee. And all the work that has been happening behind the scenes to restore confidence in the council.
The major work that has been done so far has been with PR. Of course, we have been on many of the news outlets and televised programs, radio shows. A number of them would have been partnerships. NYC with the interim and CDF, we culminated a 5-episode podcast for emancipation, Mwememeksa. We also have a number of partnerships currently with USAID and Connect Ed for some research and analysis within the schools. We hope to be going on a school tour with the National Students' Council as themselves. They're also going into General Assembly later on in the year. The National Interim Executive executive, we were put there on in April, and our tenure will end at General Assembly on the 19th of November. Um, of course, we're chaired by Ajani Labon, who was on the former on the 16th National Executive. So we have a full team. We have our deputy chairperson in the face of Zina George. She is on the Miku Youth and Sports Council. We also have a new position we filled. Um, we created during our tenure, which would be the mobilization officer in the form of Elika Frederick. And then we have our treasurer, Marissa Calix, and returning GS, General Secretary Krishna Sanbrise.
But when you speak to your stakeholders, the various units in the communities, the various councils, and national stakeholders as well, at the ministry level and otherwise, your other affiliates regionally, you get the sense that confidence is being restored in the council.
Definitely. When we just started, the main reason that the confidence may have dropped tremendously would have been lack of presence of the NYC. Coming from that, I've partnered with NYC prior to coming on the interim to host conversations and cocktails, a four-part series meeting young persons and district branches. This tremendously built the confidence, and as well as we have gone through a series of mobilization where the national executive has been present in many of the district branches. Coming into that, we still continue in encouraging the district branches to host mini series in meeting their communities so that we can engage them as well. But we have definitely seen a shift where NYC's presence has created a meaning and the confidence. It has not been fully restored, but it is of a great significance right now.
Working process and commendations for yourself and your team for the work being done behind the scenes to restore confidence in the NYC. Let's get back now, George, on that road to General Assembly. There were some requirements for nominees. There has been some interest, and you extended internally for the district branches to wrap up their nominees as well. What positions are up for grabs, and how long will the new executive serve?
Okay, so the new executive, the 17th exec, will serve for a 2-year tenure, and the positions would be president, first and second vice president, general secretary, assistant secretary, public relations officer, and treasurer.
Excellent. Full executive positions up for grabs. Talk to us, Dwight, about the importance of not just the executive who will chart and will manage the affairs, but the importance of council. We know young people now are faced with tremendous challenges. How important is the NYC, and how relevant does the NYC still remain in being a representative body for youth and a voice for youth here on St. Lucia?
The St. Lucia National Youth Council, it spans 37 years, celebrating 37 years in April of this year, which speaks volume as to the level of work that NYC has done and what the relevance it has on island, as well as its importance within the Caribbean region under the Caribbean Regional Youth Council. The St. Lucia National Youth Council currently has 21 active branches. Those district branches have a mandate of working on the ground level in the communities that NYC is unable to reach, building trust with those communities. And under those district branches are several clubs and youth organizations, youth-led NGOs, and various clubs, as I stated. The national executive is there to govern the body of all those district branches. However, the General Council is actually the deciding factor in what the National Executive does. The National Executive cannot work without the General Council.
Excellent. And Dwight, do you get an appreciation that the council has been playing a sufficiently good enough role in representing youth and youth affairs, or does NYC have a greater role to play, not as a backbencher, but on the front seat of policy making decisions?
I would say yes, because NYC, the main reason for it is to really rally and to ensure that any youth action placed by Parliament actually works for young persons, and young persons actually have access. What we are asking government is for the youth to have a more um, active role in creating and in decision making, I would say, because you tend to see sometimes there are work and documents being passed for youth, but youth isn't a part of it. How can you pass documents for youth and then you do not get the feedback from the youth? That does not work. But in recent times, we've seen that government reaches out to the young persons. We're working with ministry, and yeah, we're able to work and build on NYC. When it comes to NYC, the whole purpose as well is for programming for young persons, ensuring that young persons are equipped to face society coming from school and so forth. We also have a office which is currently opened in the William Peter Boulevard.
Let's talk a bit more, Dwight, before I let you go, and go beyond the rhetoric, if you may. What are some of the tangible, and our flow WhatsApp line is open. You can send us messages for Dwight as well at 5840600, 5840600. We're on the go with Flo and Dwight from the National Youth Council this morning. Let's go beyond the rhetoric for a minute, Dwight. Young people have been said to be the future, but we appreciate them to be the now. How can we begin to change the narrative and go beyond just the annual youth parliament, where some wonderful presentations are made, and have these put into real programs and policy that is directed at youth? How do we start, and where do we start?
Okay, wonderful question. For this, one of the things that NYC was looking at when it comes to the youth parliament, because when it comes to youth parliament, they get the training to go into doing the debate, the active debate, and then it ends here until next year another set comes on. NYC began the process where we would have looked at, well, the 16th executive would have looked at institutionalizing the youth parliament. So after the session, at the two session has closed, where Parliament and Senate, there would have still been an ongoing training for those parliamentarians who had an interest, a further interest in politics, whether it be political analytics, as well as going into active elective politics. So this would have been one of the initiatives. However, NYC, the 16th exec, had to take a step back from youth parliament this year. But hoping for next year, we're hoping to have a bigger significance when it comes to youth parliamentarians and going into this, as well as bringing it regionally.
Excellent. And we can appreciate why you had to take a step back to deal with more internal matters and to assist with the rebranding of this important organization. Finally, from me, Dwight, maybe two more for me, but now, what are some tangible ideas and suggestions which are coming out from your team, the interim organization, that you have to change the game and to make life better for young people? What are some of the tangible programs and suggestions that you're forwarding now? We know the issues plaguing youth, unemployment, crime, indiscipline in and around the school level. Youth want opportunities, youth want to lead as well. So, what are some of the tangible proposals that you're putting forward as the council now?
Currently, since our mandate as interim would have just only be to go
Mm-hmm.
into to push the NYC into the General
GA, okay.
Assembly, which is
Mm-hmm.
November. One of the things that we have pushed out would have been an open call to young persons in St. Lucia and abroad. And that form would have indicated what are your strengths and what can you contribute to NYC. We were able to see how you're able to support. One of the things we're looking at is trying to create another source of income for the NYC, which would have been
Mm.
using the conference room, so reconstructing
Mm.
the conference room to create some revenue for NYC.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing, we have a live Facebook program that we are currently going to be putting out going into General Assembly.
Mm-hmm.
We do not have any programs currently as we are this close
To
to
GA.
General Assembly.
Mm-hmm.
And we were also preparing for our Caribbean Regional Youth Council. There is a youth summit. However, that was pushed back. So um, currently, it's just our work is just focused on General Assembly, getting those elections through, and the 17th exec will then determine what programs that they would like to see fit for NYC.
Yeah, appreciate that we know you had a very limited scope as the interim executive. You know what's the good thing, Dwight? Um, and I'm not predicting the future or trying to predict the future in no way, but it would be real nice if the interim committee, if there is interest amongst you, would get an opportunity to continue on as the executive of the NYC, the 17th executive. I'm not
Well,
predicting the future.
we have one member who has shown interest. I'm not too sure at current if the nomination has been submitted, but there is a one that's willing to continue on for that 2 year tenure. So hopefully, but however, the rest of the interim executive will still stay on as support and
Mm.
building with the 17th exec. So we're not just fully going away.
Strategic moves there at the NYC. Finally, George, talk to me about the presidential debate which comes before the GA and the General Assembly itself on November 17th, is it?
November 19th.
November 19th, venue and the logistics.
Okay, not a problem. So on October 1st, we had our first physical, however, third General Council, and the General Council would have then approved the agenda for General Assembly. General Assembly would be a very impactful session. This year, we're hoping to change the dynamics as to the previous years. We don't want it to just be somewhere you just come, you talk, and then you go home. Of course, we want to create an impact, a lasting impression that NYC is here. And for this, the now we have the constitutional reform. We're unable to do as much now. However, we're going to be working on that. We have a jam session. We're working on creating the jingle, the official jingle for NYC and the General Assembly. Um, so yeah, we currently that's basically it is a full day session. It will be at the Grozile Human Resource Development Center. It would have been at the school in the Stanley John
Mm-hmm.
Odlum Secondary Memorial, I believe, and due to exams, we were able to utilize that school, so we're going to Grozile, and all district branches, youth clubs, youth-led organizations, NGOs will be present on that day.
My good man, continue you and your team to pave those potholes as you continue on your road to General Assembly. We wish you the very best. Continue your excellent representation and service on behalf of the young people of St. Lucia.
Can you repeat the question?
Now, I was just wrapping up, George, and I was saying I wish you the very best, you and your team, in continuing to pave those potholes as you continue on your road to General Assembly. And thank you for your service and representation on behalf of the youth of this country.
Not a problem. Thank you so much, Shannon, and thank you so much for having us on this morning.
You're most welcome. Dwight George, Public Relations Officer on the Interim Committee, National Youth Council, speaking to us this morning on the Council's road to General Assembly, which culminates on November 19th with the election of a new executive, the 17th executive of the St. Lucia National Youth Council.
Road to General Assembly!
Beyond the Headlines is sponsored by Flow.